Congratulations! Oh, hello. Are you guys ready to do some learning? I sure hope so. I sure hope so. Okay. I made myself some tea, so I'm just gonna quickly pull the, well, not tea bag, but basically the same thing, out. Yeah, I hope you guys are ready. I hope you're ready. Gonna be a good one. Plant nutrition is really fun. This is a big part of gardening and diagnostics and working as a horticulturist. So, let's go. Hi! Hi everyone! Hello, hello, hello! I am excited to present this to you. Abuse goblin. The hell does that mean, Clee? The fuck? Also, we got Animal Crossing music for the background today. Yep. Yep. What else can I say? I don't really know. I guess we could start. I don't know, how are you guys? How is everyone? Apologies for this being delayed today. I went to the soup place to finish up my PowerPoint, and then I was just kind of there for a while. Yeah. It was good. It was good. I had a nice time at the soup place. They like me, which is really cute, because the lady who works the cash up front, works as a server in the cash, she had to step out for a minute to go grab something. So she was gone for like 5 minutes, but she comes up to me and she's like, hey, the lady in the kitchen doesn't speak English, so if anyone comes in, can you tell them I'll be right back? So I'm sitting there working on a PowerPoint as a customer. I don't look like I work in a Vietnamese restaurant. And yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, for sure. So they trust me to like talk to customers and stuff too. It's so cute. I love this place. I'm gonna miss it so much when I move. So much. Okay. Yeah. I think we're good. We got 111 cans of soup. You have a video to share with the class? Okay, here. Because the video is going to end up in the top corner, and you're not going to be able to see it very well, do you want to just give me the link and I'll pull it up? I'll grab a browser. Wait, Nep's talking? What? It's like the mic is peaking. I just turned it down a little bit, so hopefully it's okay. I noticed that it was peaking, and I don't want that to happen. Is it any better? Your stream froze. Uh-oh. Oh, you know what? Oh no, that's not on. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. I'm going to... How can I fix that? Let me... This might help? No, that might be too quiet. I don't know shit about audio. It's so confusing. Yeah, you can pat. Thank you. Don't crush the leaf, though. Yep, yep. You know what's kind of funny? Is the leaf sitting on top of my head. It could either be a case of fall color, and the plant naturally pulling nutrients out of the leaf, or it could be the symptoms of a nutrition deficiency. Oh my god, I'm so excited for this talk. This talk is like way closer to horticulture than some of the other ones I give. Wait, is that not showing up again? Oh, no, there they are. Ow. 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 And the mini neps. Okay, let me grab this link. Ah!
Oh, my cabbages!
Copy. Paste. And I'll pause it to start. Raising Nebraska. What's the difference between soil and dirt? Hell yeah, let's go. Okay, let me pull this up. Where are we here? All right. Pause the music. All right, let's see what Kolak has. Oh wait, I forgot to say hi to everyone. This is what happens when I don't start on the chat scene. But yeah, let's try that. Hi Kolak, congrats on the first. Hi Guy, welcome, welcome. I'm really happy to hear that you got some rest. Hi Bach. Hi Kolak. Hi Calcium. Hi Guy. Hi Nightbot. Hi Calderson. Hi Mold. How's my favorite snag doing? Your brain is a dry sponge, ready to absorb the knowledge. Yes. Hi Clee. You discovered the term abuse goblin, and now every streamer you can get away with, you're calling that. That's hilarious. Who else is here? Scroll, 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 scroll. I think that's everyone I see in chat. So everyone who is here, welcome, welcome. I'm really happy to have you here. And let's see who's in the connected to chat. Yeah, Neko Divus is still here, and I still haven't ever gotten them to speak in chat. One of these days, Neko, you're gonna talk in chat for me, okay? One of these days. And I can be like, OMG, I finally get to talk to you. But now I feel like you're just gonna not do it for the sake of not doing it. Maybe you're just fucking with me. Either way, welcome, welcome. It's nice to have you here. Hi, Sansa! I hope you're ready to learn about plants and nutrition. We're first going to watch this video that Kolak has so kindly shared with us. So, please, enjoy. Wait. Is there just no audio yet?
The difference between soil and dirt, soil is in place, so it's standing, it's got integrity, it's in situ. And dirt is something as simple as what's on the road, it's on the bottom of your shoes, it's out of place, it's dust in the air. That would be the definition of dirt. The integrity is the horizonization of the soil. It's got the structure of the soil is in place, soil has structure, it's got living organisms within it, so you see it has root integrity, it's got the structural units are in place. There's different sizes of structure units, and you can kind of see this as you go along, the different type of structure. So it's in place, it's the way it was placed and formed over time. So through that process we see clay move down through the profile, we see calcium carbonate move down through the profile, we also see structural units, we see the living organisms within it. That's the integrity that we're talking about, how it's in place. It hasn't been disturbed.
A video about the difference between soil and dirt, as shared by Kolak. Thank you, Nebraska. Nice. Thank you very much, Kolak. Okay, we can put that away. Oh, wait, no. Put it, no. Wait, yes? No. Where is this? Did I shrink the page? Where is it? Oh, there, nope. Yes, yes, there it is. Ah, I found it. Soil is soiled and dirt is dirty. Surely. Thank you. I mean, Clee, you literally, well, by definition, you're not going to soil pants. You're going to dirt pants because soil would not be what sticks to your pants. It would be the dirt. You know? You can dirt pants. You cannot soil pants. That's soil science for you. Like it or not. You're gonna dirt my pants? Oh no. I know, I get it. I'm just saying. It doesn't work in this context, you little shit. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So I guess before we get into everything, I want to ask you guys if you know what plants eat. So, what do plants eat, guys? What do you think? Anything you know about plants nutrition that you guys want to share, or things that you're not sure of? I'd love to know. Oh, Animal Crossing music. There we go. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sun, carbon. Hello, cast iron. Also, hello, Coma. I saw you in there too. They eat you. Will this stream be saved? Yes, I will have the VOD available on YouTube, and it'll also be available here. Hi. Okay. So, I asked in my Discord server if people had any questions on this topic, and so I do have a bunch of questions we will address as we go through, but if you have questions as well, please save them for the end of slides or even the end of the presentation, just so that I don't get super off topic. Yeah. You have questions. Good. So if anyone has questions right now is a good time before I swap to the next slide. Hey. Right now. You're on your own journey to grow vegetables, so this is interesting. Awesome! I think you will enjoy. How am I doing today? Pretty good. I slept in, obviously, and then instead of getting up, I continued to wake up, sleep until like 3 p.m. And then I was like, fuck. I haven't finished my PowerPoint yet. And so I went to the soup place to sit and work, and then because of how long it took to, A, finish PowerPoint, and B, soup, it took me a while to get back. So we're a bit late, but that's okay. They eat bugs that fall into their pitcher. That is correct, guys. Some plants do that. Pitcher plants. I do bring those up. Next time, a PowerPoint about soup. No. Soup is not horticulture. No. Okay. Anything else I can add? I don't think so. I'm going to pour myself some of my tea. I guess it's not really tea. It's just hot water and honey, and then I put a little bit of lavender in it. Oh. I just wanted something warm, but I didn't really feel like tea. I heard adding charcoal to soil helps to nourish the soil. Is there anything I need to do to prepare it? So I guess one of the things I didn't actually cover in this PowerPoint, now that I'm thinking about it, is like, how do you apply fertilizer? I know for sure what we're not going into today is soil remediation. That's a much bigger topic, and if I do that, rather than trying to glaze over it today, I will do an actual presentation on soil health and like maintaining healthy soil. But as far as you're concerned, just at the moment, as a quick overview, if you are going to do any kind of remediation of your soil, adding any kind of nutritional or other organic kind of a material, so charcoal, mulch, compost, etc., you don't actually want to mix it in with your soil. You just kind of want to put it on the surface around your plant, and then mulch over top of, well, I guess, yeah, you wouldn't put mulch there. You just put mulch over top of it, and that all kind of like secures it in together. If you mix it into the soil, it's not going to decompose as well. So you want to leave it on the surface where the majority of that, what do you call it? Top layer of topsoil, where most of the microorganisms are living, and you'll get the best breakdown and integration into your soil. Charcoal's honestly not the main thing. I can talk a little bit more about charcoal coming up, but charcoal is basically just a carbon source, and so carbon is really well available to plants already in your soils. So unless you're used to be a fire pit, okay, yeah, it's not going to damage your plants really. Yeah, that's a much bigger question than I can go into right now, because I would need to look up some information. I've never gardened on top of a fire pit. I can only imagine it changes the pH a little, so that could be a bit of an issue. I do want to answer that question, though. Let me see. Are you in the Discord server? Because if you put your question in there, I can look it up and answer you there. Here, this is our community vTheorem Discord. And so if you wanna, there's a channel called Ask a Nep. If you throw your question in there, I'll be able to get to that. And then everyone will also be able to see the answer. Okay. Dun 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 dun. What do plants eat? So, as Guy lovingly put it before. Oh, wait, no. Clee had a question. Is apiculture horticulture? Apiculture, regarding, like, if you get your bees high on weed. So, apiculture actually is a part of horticulture. It's listed within that industry. So, as a horticulturist who has practice within beekeeping and the science of apiculture, not plugging the whore cult, so selfless. What? Anyways, it does fall under horticulture, so I would be able to provide some advice on that. I do have both, I've taken a course on all of apiculture, and honestly, based on the prof that I took it from, it was more or less like 2 to 3 courses of information in one go. Holy shit, that class was intense. Like, good lord, I feel like I learned everything I need to know about beekeeping. Not necessarily everything as in-depth about the bee internally, I guess. We didn't go into things like metabolic processes or anything, but fuck, as far as beekeeping goes, I know what I'm doing. And then I've set up hives myself and managed 2 hives for a season. And that also involved prepping them for overwintering and honey extraction. Very fascinating stuff. I've done honey extraction multiple times over different seasons with different people. What else have I done? I've caught a swarm. That's pretty fun. I caught a swarm with the city entomologist, and he has reached out to me once or twice for additional assistance, and I just kind of think that's awesome. What else? Yeah. I helped maintain beehives at a garden I worked in for a handful of years. I was there for about 5 years, and I kind of did the general keeping an eye on the beehives. How do you catch a swarm of bees? You just kind of provide them something to live in. But as a result of all my work with bees, I am quite comfortable with honeybees, and, well, I mean insects in general, but I'm quite comfortable with them. So whenever you get close to a beehive, the bees will, you know, way more of them will come out of the hive because you're standing there. They're like, is this a threat? I'm not sure. So they just buzz around you, and there's a lot of them. But they're not, so long as you don't do anything to the hive, they don't care. They're pretty chill. You can go stand next to the hive completely safe, no bee suit or anything. And I used to do that when I worked in this garden. I would do lots of tours for people. So I would walk, you know, I'd stop them by the bees a good distance away, and I would, you know, talk about how their behavior changes a little bit. So I'm like, look at the hive, see, you know, roughly how many are flying around, you like whatever. And then I would step backwards a little bit. So I'm like maybe 2-3 feet away from the hives, like right there. Or even closer. I guess it just depended. But still, I'd be like, and then you see all the bees come out. So there's a significant amount more, and you're just standing in a cloud of bees, and a lot of people are like freaked the fuck out. But then I would also offer, like, if people are interested and they can remain calm walking up to them and not panic, because you can't swat at them and like try to injure them, then they get upset. They'd also get to come close and check out the hive, because I, on occasion, again, would open the hive up and show people roughly what's going on inside, which was pretty cool. We weren't using them for honey production. It was mostly just for demonstration purposes. This was like a big demonstration garden in the middle of a city. It was really cool. So we weren't doing honey production, so we only had 2-3 boxes tall. Whereas if you are working more on honey production, they can get much taller, like 5, 6, whatever, sometimes higher. You add boxes on top as the colony grows. Anyways, we're not going into beekeeping right now. I should not get on this tangent. I fucking love beekeeping. It's fun. Yeah. I do think I'm gonna redo my apiculture stream at some point, because I gave my first one, the original beekeeping stream, 2-ish years ago, 3-ish years ago. So it's I think it'll be a good one to redo. All right. Let's get to, I guess I didn't answer Clee's, who wrote it? Catching a swarm. I think it was Clee. Oh no, Cast Iron asked, how do you catch a swarm of bees? Yeah, anyways, bees that are swarming are bees that are looking for a new home. They populated whatever their home is, and so a portion of the bees and the old queen will swarm or leave the hive and go look for a new place to establish as a new colony. Those bees, because they don't have a home they're protecting, they're very, very, very docile. And, like, you don't even really need gloves when dealing with them. You just kind of give them the opportunity to either climb into a new, like, empty hive, or you can get them even into like a box or something. If you can get the queen into whatever this is, all of the bees will just like wander in, because they're like, all right, we're setting up, this is it. and then you take them with you and you go keep them in a safer location. Yeah. Me disabling Nep with bee nerd sniping like I'm a bee cleeper. A bee cleeper. Ow. Yeah, swarms are obscenely docile. They're really cool. Yeet. Okay. I should get on topic and take a sip of water. Okay, what do plants eat? I'm gonna walk you through what we're doing today. Tyler Null Bee Movie Stream 1 is gonna be one when I can figure out how I can do this live on stream without like copyright issues. I know there's a way to do it. I have to talk to Horticulturist because he watches anime and does that. I think there's just like you have to provide commentary on it as you go. There would be so many things. Exactly. Precisely. And yeah, anyways, they don't want to leave their queen, so it's safer for them to stay together. Yeah. That or it's gonna be like a donathon goal or something. If we hit like a certain goal, I'll watch the bee movie in the Discord. Okay, anyways. For the purpose of the stream. Actually, if I wanna like cut the ends off the VOD, here we go. I'm gonna go back okay. So, what do plants eat? We are gonna go through a whole bunch of different things today on what plants eat and how they eat it. So, first we're gonna start off with trophic levels and energy synthesis. I briefly touched on this topic when we were talking about beetles and the boreal forest, so saproxylic beetles. I talked about decomposers and all of that, but we're gonna go a little more in depth on what it means and talk about energy synthesis in general. I'm gonna walk you through water transport systems, and that is about water uptake and movement throughout a plant. I took an entire class that was basically 50 to 75% just water transport systems. I actually pulled the textbook that I used for that course out for prep for this stream to at least like go through so I can answer your questions. I had a great time prepping for this. This was really fun to go back through. And yeah, we're gonna talk about nutrients themselves, so the macro and micronutrients. We're gonna talk about deficiencies, so what happens when a plant doesn't get the food it needs. We're going to talk about fertilizers, because you can't talk about plant nutrition without talking about plant food. And then at the end of this, we're going to go into a diagnostic game. So I'll show you guys 3 of the more common deficiencies, and we'll try and, as a group, guess which one might be which. I'm not going to go through every single nutrient deficiency, but if you are interested in resources to figure those out yourself, I have a whole bunch, and they'll all be available on the Google Doc. If you want to find that, it's just command notes in the chat. Doc Nep? Yeah! So I capsized. Thanks for the cute little term. Yes, I spent a summer working for a university in their plant diagnostic clinic, basically. So people could send in their questions about what's going on with their plants, and I would be able to advise them. I am licensed to do this kind of work, which was pretty cool. It still is pretty cool. So, yeah. Moving on. Starting off with trophic levels and energy synthesis. So, trophic levels. Dun dun dun. The trophic level of an organism is the number of steps it is from the start of the food chain. So if we're thinking about it on the top end of the food chain, you have, predators, right? Things that are peak predators in a system. But it goes from producers, which are things that obtain energy from abiotic sources, so sun or chemical sources, things of that nature, plants, algae, and some things called chemotrophs. Then from there, you have the things that eat those. And each organism steps up in both size, typically in size, but also complexity. And then you get carnivores, like at the top where you're eating the other organisms that are surviving off of the producers. Anyways, think of a food web. That's what your trophic levels are. And then we talk about trophic levels in, producer, consumer, and then we talk about decomposers. So when things die, autotrophic organisms are your producers. So they get their energy from abiotic sources. For our topic at hand, plants, the sun. And most autotrophs, so autotrophic organisms, utilize light energy from the sun, which we would call phototrophic. And that's not all, though. There are some that can synthesize energy from chemical sources, and we would call these ones chemoautotrophic, or just chemotrophic. Metabolic processes. So these are your energy synthesis processes, reactions within the organism that actually create some sort of byproduct that the organism needs to survive. So we talk about our metabolism. If you have a high metabolism, it means you're going through your nutrients at a higher rate. So you're going to need to replace these nutrients at a higher rate. And anyways. Photosynthesis is the process which plants use, and they take up sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and thus produce oxygen and energy in the form of sugars. Cellular respiration is the process by which food, so not abiotic things, not sunlight, not water, in the form of sugar for plants. So it's transformed into energy within the cell. And if this is very confusing, what we have here, the majority of photosynthetic activity occurs in the palisade. Oh, I just kind of went backwards. Anyways, chloroplast. Inside of a cell, we have organelles. This is our plant cell here. And these big green kind of ovally shaped organelles are our chloroplasts. And these funny little pink blobs that are a little bit more bean-shaped, these are mitochondria. So, mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. We have heard that countless times. And what that means is this little organelle is responsible for taking all of that nutritional content and turning it into energy. Cellular respiration takes sugars, this broken down component of food, and it turns it into ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. That's what it's short for.
The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Indeed it is. Good job, buddy. ATP. Yes, exactly. Plants also require this for food and energy synthesis. They exist in the same cell. What it is chloroplasts exist in plant or any organism, so algae too, that photosynthesize. But all living organisms have mitochondria. I guess I can't speak for bacteria and things. Anything in like the animal plant realm, not bacteria, not virus. Well, virus, definitions. Anyways, you know what I mean. Animals and plants require mitochondria for energy synthesis. Now, it's the source of food, the source of the material that is used within the mitochondria that defines if it's a producer or consumer. If it's a consumer, like us, we don't produce our own food. We rely on an exterior source. We get that components for the mitochondria through food. we have to ingest something. Photosynthetic organisms get that initial energy. Their food is the sun. It's also nutrients. And this is what we're going to talk about. So moving away from photosynthesis, which is a much bigger topic if we want to go into all of the processes within it, how light energy is transformed into a bioavailable food source. So glucose or sugars. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions on that one? Oh, I guess I didn't talk on that. When we did talk about plant structures, we got about halfway through the topic. We have not covered flowers and fruit yet, but we did cover roots and stems and leaves and cell structure. This is the cross-section of a leaf. And we have your cuticle layer, waxy cuticle. This is what kind of acts as the barrier between the epidermis and the environment. Then we have our epidermal layer of cells. And then we have this thing called the palisade layer. And this is where the majority of photosynthetic activity occurs. And that would just be because this is the upper surface. This is what faces sunlight. And so immediately under your barrier, you have the largest component for, or not component, the most photosynthetic tissue. So they have the highest number of chloroplasts per cell. This is their major function within the cell or within the leaf. And that's more or less that green color that you see on plant tissues because chloroplasts are green and there's a lot of them. That's also why when you flip them upside down, a lot of the time the underside of the leaf is a little different in color. The epidermis and cuticle are not required to be as transparent. Anyways. Isn't mitochondria originally a bacteria? It's definitely a theory. It's not proven, but it's a damn good hypothesis. You would actually want to talk with Phi, the neutrophil, for a real, in-depth answer. I am not a cell biologist. Where is the wax layer generated? It comes from it's as the leaf is forming. So you know how we can produce things like sweat or pheromones or any of those things? Leaf tissues are also able to create non-living component. Again, I keep using the word components. It just comes from the plant itself. It maintains that. New Phi collab leaked? No, that's really outside of the realm of what I do. So that would be a Phi content piece. Anyways, question from the community. This one actually came from Gaussian. If photosynthesis can only produce sugars, where does the plant get the other stuff it needs to survive? So, dun dun dun. It gets it through the soil. And so this is largely driven through a whole bunch of water physics and soil physics info. I do not want to overwhelm you with that. That was an entirely different course I took. It has to do with the amount of water in the soil, the amount of oxygen in the soil, the porosity of the soil. So are you getting a lot of big clumps of soil in there? Is it completely fine and maybe full of clay, or maybe mostly sand? How fast is water going to move through it? How large or small are the pores within the between the particles? Particles? Yeah, I guess particles. Particle size. So clay is the smallest, silt is in the middle, and sand is the largest. So in between each of these little grains, there are going to be itty-bitty spaces. Soil water physics is nuts. But within the soil, within that water, within all of the organic components, you have nutrients. And that, where it sits in the water and other organic materials, that is how plants access it. So I'm going to start with talking about water movement rather than the nutrients themselves, because this is the function that brings the nutrients inside the plants. I would not call it digestion, but I would consider it the act of eating itself before you start digestion. Digestion would be what happens once they get into the cells and such, where they're integrated into the plant itself. But yes, water movement in general, even outside of plants, is driven by the concepts of adhesion, cohesion, and I guess results in things like surface tension. Adhesion and cohesion are how, well, sticky water molecules are. We're going to watch a little video on what adhesion and cohesion is. We're also going to watch... Did I even put... Yeah, I think I put that video in here. Otherwise, I have it available. Water movement within plants is also responsible for something called turgor pressure. Turgor pressure is what gives plants the ability to hold themselves up. They don't have bones. We have bones that give us the ability to hold ourselves up. We also have water content within our cells that prevent us from just being like, it gives you that squishy, the fact that meat is squishy, right? It gives you that. Bone is not full of water the same way. It's not like elastic and squishy. Turgor pressure is when each plant cell has enough water in it that it holds itself up. It's got a bit of pressure against the cell wall, and that prevents it from being squishy. So yes, that is why a plant without water wilts. There's not enough water within the cells to provide that structural effect. Turgor pressure is what you call it. Water always flows in one direction within a plant. It flows from root to stomata. Stomata is the pores on leaves and other surfaces. For the most part, leaves. We're just going to talk about that. The underside of leaves. They're pores that can open and close, again, based on turgor pressure. And because of that, there is like a straw effect that because the plant is releasing water and water vapor and such through these stomata, it ends up causing the effect that pulls water in to the plant to continuously maintain the amount of water that is in there. So if you suck up on one end of the straw, so you're getting water out over here, it's going to continue pulling water in from the source. Now, water can technically move through the plant outside of your xylem. Xylem is what they're like the veins, more or less, that move through the plant from root to other tissues. Also, hello, Jonah, hello. Yes, moves up. We have the phloem as well, but what the phloem does is it's not just water transport, it's the food, the nutrients that are moving around the plant. Sometimes water uptake can have that, like the xylem can move nutrients around as well. Obviously, they take them in from the soil. But your phloem is what you would get sap from. So if we're thinking about syrup, like maple syrup or anything like that, your sap is carried in the phloem. So xylem up, phloem down, more or less. All right, root structure also plays a role in water uptake. There are two kind of main root structures out there, 3 if you want to get into things like, example, ginger. But think of a carrot, and it has one large root that goes down and fibrous roots that come out to the sides. That is something called a taproot system, and a taproot system is meant to get deep into the soil. So its root structure allows it to reach deeper and access more water through the soil horizons and the soil profile. A lot of plants will also have something called a fibrous root system. And this is one that is more like pom-pom shaped, I guess. So if you think of pulling grass out of the ground and you don't have a large taproot like you would a dandelion, you have like a massive, the same size roots that all come out from the base of the plant. Yeah. That allows them to access a bunch of water that's close to the surface. So these often are annual plants, not ones that survive year-round and come back each year. Majority of the time, fibrous roots are not seen in dicots. They get the taproot, and vice versa. Monocots have that fibrous root system. It's not an exact science. Some things are just, they'll have similar looks and functions despite being in an opposing group. Anyways, yes, the other thing aside from root structure are soil properties. So like I said, the size of the particles within the soil, the amount of organic material in the soil, the amount of water that's being applied to the soil. Soil properties will impact how much water is available. And that, in turn, affects how many nutrients are available. So, starting off, we're going to watch two videos here. This one is about water transport within the plant, and this is a nice David Attenborough video. I love it. Apologies, adjust your volume now. I don't know how loud this is going to be.
Growing 70 feet tall, like this sycamore, brings it great advantages. It allows it to overtop its neighbors so it can get all the sunshine it needs, and it enables it to spread out a huge surface area of leaves, and through their pores it can suck in carbon dioxide from the air. But it also brings considerable problems. As well as carbon dioxide, the leaves need water in order to make food. And water in the leaf can easily evaporate through the pores. Indeed, 90% of the water sucked in by the roots is lost through the surface of the leaves at the top of the tree. But pumping water up here to this height can cause considerable problems.
Now, before we get to this bit, this is not how plants get watered. Remember, they take it up through the roots, not the leaves. This is demonstrating how much energy and force it takes to move water that high, okay? He's not watering the plant, he's demonstrating how water gets up there.
This jet of water, 70 feet up in the air here, it takes that huge, big, noisy engine down there. But this tree pumps up about 100 gallons every hour and manages to do so in total silence. How? The answer is to be found in the tree's trunk. The central part of this is wood. Around the outside of this pillar, there are ranks of hair-thin pipes. Those immediately beneath the bark carry the food-laden sap down from the leaves. Farther inside the trunk, there's another set of tubes. These are the ones that carry the water up. They are continuous pipes that extend the whole length of the trunk.
makes it look so weird. But this is like basically
As the water
the
evaporates in the leaves
straws.
above, the long, thin threads of it are pulled up the tubes, into the branches, and ultimately into the leaves themselves.
We're in the
Some of it
spongy
is used in
musical.
the food-making process. The rest evaporates through the leaf
Those are the
pores
stoma.
as vapor.
All right. So if you consider how much energy and work it takes a fire truck to move that much water to the top of the tree, that is kind of the extent to which trees are able to
Just
move
wanted to hop
this.
in and wish y'all a great stream. Stay hydrated out there.
Hi, Kit Creates. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you stay hydrated as well. Now, this one gives us a little bit more information on water transport itself, so we'll watch this as well.
This Douglas fir's thirsty roots draw nutrient-filled water toward its trunk. The tree acts like a...
So if you guys see here, while we do have a whole bunch of roots up this way, the majority, like the largest root in this plant is kind of a taproot system. It's not a perfect taproot system because this is a Douglas fir, meaning it's a gymnosperm. But more or less, you're seeing that taproot kind of a look.
It acts like a giant water pump. Thick bark protects thin layers of tubes where fluids move up and down the tree. Far above us in the tree's needles, photosynthesis takes place. The tree uses sunlight to produce energy-rich, sugary sap that flows down the outermost layer of tubes. But deeper inside, we find hair-thin fibers that transport water skyward. We're heading along a direct route that connects the deepest roots to the highest needles, which need water.
So another thing I want to point out is that as you move through xylem tissues, they're just connected to each other. When you move through phloem tissues, where you're going down with the byproducts of photosynthesis, you have to go through these things called sieves. So in between the cells, you get a structure that looks like a sieve or sieve.
For photosynthesis.
Phloem also have these funny little cells attached to them called companion cells. Okay, and one other piece here is, again, these are our stomata. So these are the stomatal pores that sit on the underside of leaves. And each time they're what's the term? The stomata is where two, what we call guard cells, meet. And so when there is a lot of turgor pressure in the cells, we have lots of water, we have enough of it, the cells will expand and hold themselves open, and they're kind of this goofy bean shape. So when they extend and they have this full turgor pressure, they're open. They allow this opening on the leaf tissue. When there is not enough water and they kind of wilt, right? The cells, I won't say collapse, it's not collapsing, but what happens is they lose that turgor pressure and they don't stay rigid and open. They do close in on themselves, and that closes the stomatal pores. Hence, it helps to reserve water within the plant.
Water escapes from tiny pores on the needles. This helps keep the forest cool. And water vapor can collect into clouds and eventually fall as rain.
Yeah. I hope that makes sense. Okay, before we move on from here, because we're starting in on nutrients, I'm going to take a quick pause and allow the ads to play through. The ads happen once an hour. They are 3 minutes in length. You might get lucky and there's not as many. But please hold on, and we'll be back. We'll be back soon. Dun 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 dun. All right. I guess in the meantime, if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask. Bum, bum. Good time for a water break. I got some of the lavender in the cup when I poured from my, I guess it's not my teapot. It's a to-go mug that, yeah. I'll just get the little bits of lavender out of my cup. Okay. Turgor pressure? Turgor pressure, think of a water balloon. So when it's completely full of water, right? And you push on the side, you can't really stick your finger the whole way in. You know what? An even better one. Think of a balloon that's floating, like a balloon with helium in it. When it's full, it's got a lot of pressure to it, so you can't squeeze it and squish it. However, once it starts to lose air, it does start to become less pressurized on the outside. It starts to float maybe a little lower, and the balloon itself is more malleable. You can poke it and squeeze it a little bit. That would be the difference. So when there's plenty of turgor pressure, when there's enough there, it's like when the balloon is full, and then as in plants, water is lost, it loses that turgor pressure. It's not as strong. And so you get a bit more of a weak structure, because there's just not as much in there. Does that make sense? I hope so. Bum, 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 bum. All right. I think ads should be over. I hope everyone is back, and we're going to continue on. So we're going to talk about the nutrients themselves. All right, nutrients. These are the essential elements that are critical nutrients required by a plant to grow, develop, and complete its reproductive cycle. The reproductive cycle is flowering, fruiting, and seeds. Non-mineral nutrients include carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. They make up about 95% of dry biomass of a plant, which just means once the plant has completely desiccated, you just have the organic materials left. They make up 95% of that. They are also typically not obtained through the soil and water transport. You can find them in the air, well, obviously they just uptake water. When we mentioned using charcoal, I said that it is a source of carbon. sometimes you might need that in your soil, but a lot of the time not necessarily. There's often plenty of carbon available. Yes. Mineral nutrients are everything else that the plant needs. We call them or classify them as macro and micronutrients, and this is based on how much is needed. They also are categorized by biochemical function, so how they react within the plant and what they functionally are required for. And these mineral nutrients, opposed to our non-mineral ones, these make up the remaining 5% of a plant's dry biomass. More on our mineral nutrients. Macronutrients include nitrogen, potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur, and silicon. Silicon, as far as I'm aware, plays the largest role in rice as a plant. It is needed by all plants, but rice uses a particularly high amount of it in comparison, and I cannot remember why at the moment. But I'll look into it sometime if people are interested. Micronutrients, the ones required in significantly smaller quantities. These are chlorine, chlorine, iron, boron, manganese, sodium, zinc, copper, nickel, and molybdenum. Molybdenum is the one that is required in the absolute least quantity. Again, can't quite remember what it does, but if you don't have it, you do not have successful plants. Nutrients can be required in different amounts across development stages, tissues, and as well as plant to plant. Some plants require higher levels of phosphorus to potassium. Sometimes it's a different portion of the plant, so say roots versus leaves, in which nutrients they require. So, we also classify nutrients by their mobility within soil and plant tissues. This mobility directly impacts absorption and translocation within a plant. So, mobility just refers to the compound's ability to move in water. So within the soil, some nutrients, like phosphorus, immobile. They don't move. If that's where they're sitting in the soil, that's where they're sitting in the soil. Mobile would mean it can move, and it's actually partially mobile within a plant, but not in the soil. For example, nitrogen, it's mobile in both. So nitrogen moves through the soil, it also moves in the plant, if needed. Now, some plants have adapted other strategies for nutrient uptake, and I would call these symbiotic adaptations. These ones are these are symbiotic relationships with other organisms. So mycorrhizal fungi form an association with plant roots to create mycorrhiza. These mycorrhiza are made up of both the plant and the fungi. And what happens is the host plants supply the fungi with carbohydrates, sugars, the food source for the fungi. And in turn, the fungi will supply the plant with nutrients. They are able to take up nutrients that sometimes the plant can't, and it changes the chemical structure of these nutrients, thus allowing the plant to take them up. Legumes, this big group of plants, so these are our peas and our beans, chickpeas, lentils, all of those fungi, alfalfa as well. These are plants. Sorry, I said fungi, and now maybe that's confusing. Anyways, legumes form relationships with free-living bacteria that fix nitrogen, changes it into a different form, and create these nodules on roots. This is similar to how mycorrhiza function. Both exchange food for food. Now, what happens when there's not enough food? Deficiencies. This is the inadequate supply of required essential nutrients, and it results in disorders that inhibit plant growth, health, and/or reproduction. There is a very specific use of the word disorders. Disorders and diseases are separate. They have their own definitions. A disorder is caused by an abiotic factor. So, air, water, soil, the abiotic factors cause problems called deficiencies. Or not deficiencies, disorders. It's something that's not caused by a living component. Biotic components that cause plant problems would be diseases. So bacteria, fungi, viruses, those would be what cause diseases. So, deficiencies of nutrients would only be able to cause disorders. Deficiency can be caused by inadequate levels within the soil. The minerals are in unavailable forms, so they might be in a chemical structure that a plant just cannot interact with. And sometimes viral-induced metabolic behaviors. It might slow the plant down, right? And therefore it does not need as much. Or it might inhibit water uptake, and therefore you end up with a deficiency. Or the virus consumes more of the nutrient within the plant than the plant can, right? Lots of things. Many deficiencies will show up as symptoms like discoloration in the leaves. You could have malformed tissues, or stunted fruit and seed formation, as well as maybe stunted flower formation. Not all of these things are caused by nutrient deficiencies. Not all nutrient deficiencies show these symptoms. This is just kind of a... Most of the time you can utilize this to guess at what's going on with your plant. The only way to guarantee what is going on with the plant is through lab analysis. But as a home gardener, you really aren't going to use lab analysis. So, yeah. Now, some plants are in environments that have adapted strategies because there's not enough of this nutrient. Carnivorous plants, such as pitcher plants, they require additional nitrogen and phosphorus. These are minerals that are not as available in their environment. Digesting insects provides these essential nutrients. So it's not just for fun because there's a lot of bugs around, it's compensating for the fact that where they live, their habitat does not have enough of these nutrients available. Parasitic plants, so for example mistletoe, they have evolved to steal nutrients and water and carbohydrates from other plants to compensate for environmental deficiency. So like I said before, with the legumes and the mycorrhiza, sometimes plants form symbiotic relationships and it benefits both. Sometimes a plant, instead of forming relationships, forms a dependency, so they become parasitic. The other really great example of a parasitic plant is something called ghost pipe, and it largely lives underground. So when it does flower and you get a portion of the plant above ground, it's completely white. There is no photosynthetic tissue. It derives all of its food from another plant. Now, I have a question for you guys. Can you have too much of a nutrient? So we know you can have not enough, but is it possible for plants to have too much? Probably? Yes? See if we get any other answers. Yeah, I remember over-fertilizing was bad. Yes. All right. Yeah, you guys are right. Yes, you absolutely can. And we refer to the symptoms of over-fertilization as fertilizer burn. If you get too much, so for example, too much nitrogen, because it will continuously be taken up by the roots. Just because it has enough, it doesn't mean the plant stops taking up the nutrient in its water uptake. You can end up with far too much and it just kills the plant tissues. It's too strong. Now, moving on to the big three: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These are required in some of the highest content, and these are the ones that you guys will hear about the most often. Another one you may hear often is calcium. Now, I'm going to talk about calcium deficiencies later on, towards the end of the presentation, but largely this is what you're going to be interacting with as a gardener or someone who maintains houseplants. These are our nutrients. We have nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. They're organized into biochemical functions, and so nitrogen is largely responsible for vegetative plant growth. This is all of the green tissues. This is the stuff that's not part of reproduction, not your flowers, fruits, and seeds. Yes, it's still involved in those. You need nitrogen to complete those parts of plant development and growth. But it's largely responsible for vegetative plant growth. The components of a plant that it is essentially required for include carbon compounds, amino acids, amides, proteins, nucleic acids, nucleotides. It's a key component of DNA, of cell structure, and cell metabolites, things that come from the processes within the cell. These are considered to be a part of the biochemical group 1. I'm not going to go into these groups because it's really in depth to describe them and like the types of chemical reactions they're involved in. Sometimes it has to do with uptake. They're all different. Anyways, they would be considered part of group 1. If you want to know about that, I can share in more detail later. Now, phosphorus is responsible largely for reproductive plant growth. Flowers, fruits, seeds. These are important element. This is an important element in energy storage, structural integrity, sugar phosphates, nucleic acids, nucleotides, and phospholipids. Phospholipids are a crucial part of how nutrients move in and out of a cell. These would be part of something called group 2, and it is a crucial element within the mitochondria and the chloroplasts. Anything involving ATP has a lot to do with phosphorus. Potassium has a lot to do with the immunity and health of a plant and root development. So it's a huge part of a ton of enzymes, and it's really, really important for establishing turgor pressure, meaning how it keeps the water within a cell. And it would be part of something called group 3. There is a 4th group. These ones just don't happen to be a part of it. Now, there are deficiency signs that we'll come back to later and review again. Nitrogen often involves something called leaf chlorosis. And because it's a mobile nutrient, it moves very readily within a plant. It occurs in the lower and oldest leaves first. This is because as new growth occurs, if there's not enough nitrogen being taken up, it will pull it out of the oldest mature leaves and push it into the new growth. So if you have a nitrogen deficiency, if your plant is turning yellow, you'll notice it at the base of the plant first. You'll notice it in those older, more mature leaves and not in the new growth at the tips of the plant. It will get worse if you don't address it, and more of the plant will turn yellow. But this is kind of how you recognize a nitrogen deficiency. It can also lead to anthocyanin production, although way less common. Anthocyanins are the pigments in plants that cause that purple coloration. So if you've ever seen a tree that has like red, purple colored leaves all year, they never like actually green. They stay reddish or purple-ish. That's caused by anthocyanin. There are a handful of really common pigments that you find in leaves. Chlorophyll is the one that causes the green color. Anthocyanins cause a purplish color. Carotenoids, they cause more of a yellowish orangey kind of a color. Exactly. Anthocyanins will be responsible for that purplish color. You do not really see this often, but it can be a symptom in certain plants. Now, phosphorus can also include that purpling of tissues. It will also lead to extra formation of anthocyanins, but you do not get leaf chlorosis. You'll see the purpling, but not with leaf yellowing. That combination won't be seen. It does cause stunted growth and excessive dark green coloration in the leaves. You'll get maybe malformed growth, so things growing incorrectly. Again, the purpling of tissues and even delayed maturation and reproduction. And that's because it plays such a crucial role in flowers and fruit. If you don't have enough, the flowers and fruit will be impacted. Potassium. You get, again, a very visual symptom, but instead of something called interveinal chlorosis, and we'll see that later on, it gets a mottled or marginal chlorosis. So on the leaf, instead of occurring across the leaf in between the veins, it occurs largely at the edge of the leaf, along the margin. And sometimes it appears more within the leaf veins as well, but it's not a consistent yellowing. It's more of a splotchy yellowing. Sometimes you get like a crinkling of the leaves, like you've sucked water out of it, and it's losing its structure a bit. Again, like nitrogen, because it's a mobile nutrient, it can move in older tissues up to newer tissues. And it can also result in weaker stems. I have this word here called lodging. Lodging is more of a term we refer to with crops, but it's when your crops can't hold themselves up and they fall over and they have a very, very weak stem. Now, keep that with the concept of short internodes. That means the space between leaves and branches are much smaller. Again, we talked about nodes when we looked at plant structures in general, botanical structures. So I can always point you back to that talk if you would like more information. All right. Now, community question. This one was submitted by Eggy. What even is fertilizer and what does it do for a plant's growth? Fertilizer is any natural or synthetic material applied to soil or plant tissues used to supply nutrients for plant growth. It's like our version of maybe a multivitamin. So if you eat foods that do not have a good spread of nutrition, you may end up with a nutrient deficiency, right? If you, along the side, also took a multivitamin, while it's not perfect for your health, it would increase the amount of nutrients you have access to. Not everything, but some things. Fertilizers come in a lot of different forms, and it also occurs naturally in the soil. As in, if you needed to change out soil or mix in new soil, that could also be a way of applying more nutrients. Not really something people do though. And it had issues with lodging. There's a lot of things that can cause lodging in things like garlic, but it is possible. It's possible. Regarding the different forms, you can have either synthetic forms or organic forms. So our synthetic ones are usually available in powders or I guess liquids that you can utilize as a spray. And also these things called slow release granules. So slow release fertilizer is different from these powders and sprays because they are slow acting. All of these will make the nutrients immediately available. The slow release will slowly allow the nutrients to leave the granule over time, so you get a little bit more consistent fertilization. But if your plant really needs a boost, this might be too slow. Now, some fertilizers might be plant specific. So sometimes plants are really sensitive to different levels of nutrition and can end up with fertilizer burns quite easily. Orchid is often its own kind of fertilizer. You'll often see that with orchid care, you don't want to use a broad spectrum fertilizer. You want to make sure it's very, very low concentration and it's meant for orchids. That's why. And these formulas typically do not contain micronutrients. They're largely just your macronutrients, and we'll talk about that in another minute or two, unless it's listed on the package. Sometimes things will be fortified. You know, when we see our cereals, they now say fortified with, I don't know, calcium or whatever it is. Just means they added additional amounts of it. Now, organic forms are things like compost, manure, which does need to be well rotted. You cannot just put fresh cow poop on your garden. It will cause fertilizer burn. It's too strong. There's fish fertilizers, there's bone meal, there's alfalfa pellets, there's yada 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 yada. These are things that are made from organic sources, maybe other plants, maybe animal based, Synthetic fertilizers are also something that came out of the Green Revolution and all of the different chemistry-based advancements that occurred in the last century. Yeet. Another community question or two. Komi Belladonna asks, what are the 3 numbers on bags and when do I use which? Followed by Calderson's question, how do you make sure that you fulfill the nutrient requirements over a broad spectrum of plants? So these very similar questions, and I should be able to address. Wouldn't fresh manure also risk bacterial infection? Yes and no. Depends on how things are fertilized, the type of bacteria or virus or whatever it is, and just age of the manure, all of that stuff. It's more complex than, Anyways, so moving on. We're going to talk about fertilizer grade. So when you are looking at a package of fertilizer, it will show you something listed as number. Really often, 20, 20, 20. That's kind of your standardized broad spectrum everyday fertilizer that you will see when you go into any kind of garden supply store. These numbers always represent the same 3 nutrients: N, P, K. Those were the big 3 that we mentioned earlier: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. These numbers represent a ratio between the nutrients. They are not the concentration. If you see 20, 20, 20, it does not mean that 20% is nitrogen, 20% is phosphorus, 20% is potassium. It has to do with the ratio between the nutrients. And fertilizing at home. We're not going to talk about large-scale agricultural fertilizing, it's not relevant. Most plants require the same basic nutritional components. A broad-spectrum fertilizer can provide most of these. Not everything. Synthetic fertilizers often don't contain additional micronutrients. They may be insufficient after a period of time. Organic fertilizers contain a more broad spectrum of nutrients, but not all organic fertilizers are equal. Maintaining your soil health through good practices provides the best nutritional quality and soil health for a plant and its development. My suggestion as a horticulturist who gives advice on gardening and all of this, the best thing you can do is to keep your soil healthy. Use soil regenerative practices. There's tons of information out there online. This is going to be the best way to maintain plant health. There are different practices between using pots and raised beds and just growing straight in the ground, and based on location. Different regions of the world may require different adaptations to this fertilizing and soil health process. So I can't answer everything, and this is more of like a maintain all of it kind of a thing. Now, another question. This is something called blossom end rot. And what it is it's this death of the tip of the fruit. It is really, really commonly seen in tomatoes. Sometimes you see it in peppers, not as often, but tomatoes experience this regularly. Blossom end rot. True or false? Is it caused by a calcium deficiency? So if you look up blossom end rot, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see it's a calcium deficiency. Yes or no? Is this actually true? It is true, but it's not usually because it's not available in the soil. It's caused by inadequate or irregular watering, and it leads to this deficiency. Fruit develop really quickly, and so if you do not have routine and consistent water, therefore routine and consistent calcium access, it will damage and kill parts of the fruit. Yes, occasionally you have the correct water and it genuinely is calcium missing in an adequate quantity, but 9 times out of 10, it's watering. So, majority of the time, if you go into a garden center, you're not going to get that information unless you're speaking to someone with a lot of experience or training. Majority of the time, because it's a very, very common myth, people will tell you it's a calcium deficiency and you have to apply calcium. No, you gotta make sure your watering is consistent and regular. Don't let your plants dry out and don't compensate by overwatering. Water them every day. If it's really bloody hot out and you're in pots, water it twice a day. But don't let your soils completely dry out. And don't overdo it. Keep it regular. Make sure they just stay hydrated. Now, another community question. This one comes from Cerno. What is mulch and how does it help plant growth? Actually, let's go back one. I didn't address this originally when we looked at the fertilizing at home. If you were trying to figure out which one to use, a lot of the time you can just go with that broad spectrum kind of fertilizer. It typically assists. Again, top dressing your soils with new organic material every year, mulching it, kind of the best idea though. Okay. Mulch. Mulch is a material that's used to cover the soil surface. It's meant to reduce soil water loss, regulate soil temperature, so summer and winter. In the winter, it acts as an insulator, right? Keeps it warmer. Summer, it helps keep the sun off the soil surface and keeps it a little bit cooler. And it creates a barrier between pests and disease and the plant tissues itself. Now, mulch is not a fertilizer. You don't apply mulch to provide nutrition to the plant. However, organic mulches, so things like maybe straw, grass clippings, bark mulch, over time, these will break down and basically become compost. So they become part of the nutritional element of your soil. Now, pet peeve and something I always talk about, landscape fabric. Yes, it's meant to cover the soil surface and you put, you cut little holes in it to plant your plants in there. It's not a mulch. And this shit breaks down and causes significant problems in the future. When you try and pull it back up later, the whole thing like disintegrates on you. And when you even get those little pieces still stuck in the soil, because inevitably you can't get all of that out once it starts kind of like breaking up, it can cause a lot of issues for roots. Roots can get stuck in them, and as they try to expand, they choke themselves. You know? I fucking hate landscape fabric. Don't do it. All right. That's the end of the presentation. Do you guys have questions? Do, 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 do. I know I didn't cover absolutely everything, but I wanted to walk you guys through plant nutrition in the same way that I, as a horticulturist, learned it. I think we might be good to go on. I have a game for us to play. All right. We're gonna guess nutritional deficiencies. Oh, what are things that absolutely should not be used as fertilizer? Salt. You will often see Epsom salts either suggested or for sale in garden centers. Don't fucking use salts. Don't do it. It's bad. It's a bad idea. Salt kills shit. Don't do it. And as a home gardener, do not use commercial farming fertilizers unless you are a farmer or you have actually been sold this by a licensed dealer. Don't buy them. Don't use them. Use the stuff that's meant for home gardeners. Another thing, it's well known that phosphorus accumulates in the soil the more often you fertilize. So you genuinely do not usually need to add phosphorus to your soil. Yeah, Kolak, exactly. Putting salt in the dirt is literally a term called salting the earth. And it's a war tactic. It causes famines, for fuck's sake. Yes, it leads to chemical burns on them. Like, they'll fucking do it. I don't know why that's something that people have always used. They use, like, magnesium-rich salts and stuff. Just don't do it. Alright. We're gonna guess nutritional deficiencies now. We're just sticking to N, P, and K because those are our most common. And I'm gonna walk us back to here. We're gonna talk again about nutrient deficiencies, those signs of them. Nitrogen. Interveinal leaf chlorosis. Interveinal chlorosis means that yellowing occurs in between the veins. Phosphorus, you get stunted growth, some malformed tissues, and purpling of tissues. Potassium shows up largely on leaf tips and margins. It's not consistent and occurs the same across all the tissues. It can be really mottled looking, so kind of splotchy looking. You also often end up with very weak stems, and sometimes your leaves kind of crinkle or curl. Yeah. Okay, so let's go through and do our best to guess. You guys will get a minute after each image, like with each image, to guess. So here we go. Which one is this? I'm gonna set up a poll. Where is that? Where'd that go? It's supposed to give me the option to set up a poll. Oh, maybe I can't do that in here. I have to do it over here. I don't know what I'm hearing outside. Someone hitting something. I don't know what that was. That was weird. Okay, but you guys get your minute to answer that. Remember, you gotta vote. I put a little poll up. Vote in my poll. You guys suck. Only one of you is voting. All right, 4 of you guys voted. You all think nitrogen? All right. No, not nitrogen. This is a phosphorus deficiency. These leaves are showing purpling and some stunted growth. Now, do you see that the plants around it are not purpling? Phosphorus is not mobile within the soil. It's immobile in the soil. This plant physically cannot reach the phosphorus in the soil. All right, next. Okay, what do we have here? Okay, 1 minute. What do you think it is? We've got another poll set up. You have just a couple seconds left to vote in the poll for which one you think this might be. Nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium. Nitrogen causing interveinal chlorosis, potassium causing purpling, and or phosphorus causing purpling and potassium causing a mottled kind of look. All right, you guys have guessed potassium. No, this is a nitrogen deficiency. So when we talk about nitrogen deficiencies, we talk about it occurring between the veins. So even though there is cell death occurring up the center, if you look, these veins in between each one is where the yellowing occurs first. This is a plant that has ended with death, necrosis. So the worse the yellowing was getting, it does die back. And this is what you would typically see in a grass leaf. So this is corn. But you get this in between the veins discoloration. All right. Next up. Is this nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium? Let me throw another poll up. Dun 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 dun. Once again, nitrogen shows a yellowing between the veins, meaning your veins stay green. Phosphorus, you see purpling of tissues. And potassium usually results in yellowing at the margins or the edges of the leaf, or the leaf tip, and kind of a splotchy yellowing across the rest of the leaf. Couple seconds left. All right, you guys have guessed phosphorus. Yes, good job. So phosphorus is that purpling of the tissues. Dun, 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 dun. The reason we know it is phosphorus is because you don't also have nitrogen deficiency symptoms. Senpai detected? What? What's going on here? Guy is gifting 10 subs. Whoa. Whoa. Guy. That's so kind. Thank you very much. And Dr. Echolis, Jedi Superpunk, KJ, Pineapple, Coma, Toast, Ninja Bartender. That's a name. I like that. Alx, and Ginger Maximus, and the shittiest of sandwiches. Congrats on your nice gift subs. Please enjoy the emotes, and remember to thank Guy. I love being financially irresponsible. Dude, same. I hate that. Alright. But yes. Phosphorus. Hi, Tender. Alright. Moving on to another guess. Is this our nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium deficiency? You have 1 minute to vote in the little poll. Couple more seconds to vote if anyone is interested in trying to guess. They're anonymous, so if you get it wrong, it's all good. No one's gonna know. I will know. Tyler, how are you gonna know? Alright, so we've voted potassium. Congratulations, guys. Yes, this is a potassium deficiency. We can tell because the majority of our yellowing is occurring at the margins, the edge, including necrosis, so dieback of the tissues. We also have this more splotchy discoloration around the surface of the leaf. Again, the more severe the deficiency, the more necrosis or dieback that you will see. Next! What is this? What kind of a deficiency is this? Put another poll up. Necrosis is dead tissues, dying tissues. And should you remove a leaf if it's showing signs of necrosis? No, you should remove a leaf if the necrosis is leading to disease. So if it's sitting against the soil surface and bacteria and viruses can interact with it and it starts getting diseases from it being wounded. But just necrosis in general, it's just that dying back of tissues. Yes. You guys are guessing a phosphorus deficiency. Dun 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 dun. Yeah. Once again, purpling of tissues in this plant. Instead of a deep purple color, we're getting that reddish, that deep reddish color. Also responsible from anthocyanin pigments. Okay, we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more of these. So yeah, let's just continue through then. Oops. All right, next up. Which deficiency is this? We want to think about it in terms of pattern. Okay? This is a pattern one. I'll put a poll up. So think about it. What our definitions of symptoms are for each one. And what do we think this is? Nitrogen deficiencies occur between the veins, with the veins typically retaining their very green color. Phosphorus shows a purpling or really dark green color on the leaves. And potassium causes yellowing largely at the leaf tip and around the margin, moving inwards, and a bit splotchier. So what do we have here? You have a couple seconds left to vote. I love if everyone just gives it a shot, because then I get to see what people do and do not need more clarification on. All right, we've guessed potassium. Yes. Once again, yes, you guys are getting it. This is a potassium deficiency. And we know this, well, even though we have intervenal chlorosis, it occurs between the veins, it is occurring from the tip and the margin inwards. We do not see that as a routine symptom of nitrogen deficiency. This is a potassium deficiency. All right, what do we have going on here? Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium? What's happening to this plant? guys have a minute to put your guesses in. Again, if you are able to guess, it gives me an idea of what we need to review. Your brain feels so big right now. Yay! I love that. Something's wrong with the poll? Oh. Well, throw your guess in chat. That'll be enough. Nitrogen? Yeah. Yep, this is a classic nitrogen deficiency. You get an even yellowing across the whole plant, and it's interveinal, meaning it's in between the veins. It's not the veins necessarily themselves. Dun, 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 dun. So you get green veins, green stems, yellow leaves. And as you move up the leaf, you get less and less of the symptoms. It starts in the lowest leaves first and continues up. The more severe the symptoms, the more actual necrosis, dieback, and complete fall of the leaves that you will get. So yes, nitrogen. How about this guy? This is a tomato leaf. I'm gonna try another poll here and see, hopefully it works better this time. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I think the polls are just being dumb now. Oh, maybe not. But yeah, 3 of you guys have guessed phosphorus. Yep, this would be phosphorus. Now, something of note here is when you see color changes on the tip, it's like in tomatoes too, sometimes it's not actually a deficiency. Some tomatoes have more of a purplish hue to them. So if you're not sure, just look up the variety that you have. Look up the cultivar online. See if this is like a common symptom or just a common look, right? Like sometimes tomatoes have that color change and they will turn more of a green as they go. Sometimes it is a nutrient deficiency, and I'm speaking like tomatoes, potatoes, just with those guys in particular. All right, next up was this one. I'm not gonna do a poll. Just put it in the chat. What do we think this guy is? Who dis? Who dat? This is some sort of squash or melon. It's a cucurbit, whoever he is. All right. Yep. This one's another potassium one, another potassium deficiency. We know this because it's occurring at the edges of the leaves first. It also occurs at the base first, so you see these lowest ones tend to have the worst symptoms, and then as you go up, there's less and less of it. This is the leaf, this is the stem's growing point, the apical meristem. Anyways, dun dun. These are potassium deficiency symptoms. There is an ad that's gonna play, so before we go on to the next one, actually, let's really quickly go through this one. We'll go fast. Okay, what about this guy? Who dat? This one looks really similar to the one we started with. So I'm gonna come back here and show you it once. So there's this guy. This was a nitrogen deficiency. Now we're looking at this guy. What is this one? So I'll leave you guys to think about it. The ad is starting right away. Okay. This is a potassium deficiency. Once again, it occurs at the edges of the leaf first and moves inwards, unlike the nitrogen deficiency, where the edges of the leaves were still green. Alright, there's an ad that's gonna play. I'm gonna leave us on our thank you for learning with me slide, and after the ads, we'll chat a little bit more. So enjoy your ads. You get 3 minutes of ads. I'm going to sip some more of my hot water with honey and lavender, because yum. This lesson taught you a lot. Yay! Oh, I'm glad. There's definitely a lot more to plant nutrition and deficiencies and recognizing them than what I showed you today. But this is a pretty good basic overview, so not overloading you with too much info. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I had fun putting it together. I had fun reviewing stuff. Yay, I'm glad you had fun. Good stuff, good stuff. We're about halfway through the ads. We'll get to the end of it and then go from there. I love my Animal Crossing music in the background. It's so chill. Not the peas. No! Why don't they work? For fuck's sake. I need to figure out this stupid program and get it working again. I don't know why it disconnects. Waiting for it to load. There. Wait, is it even loading on my screen? I don't know. I don't know. It says it should be working. We can try again in a minute. Okay. I'm glad you enjoyed, Kolak. Very fun, very smart. Bum bum. Bum bum. Bum bum bum. Geek brain. Well, I mean, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I am able to retain all of this information in my head, but also no, because I just spent 5 years learning it. Like, dedicated 5 years to learning this stuff, and have worked in the field of this for 10. Right? Whatever you kind of spend your time on, you end up learning. Yeah. Well, the ads ended. We're all back. I had a wonderful time. I guess we should wrap up. Do you guys want to play Metaflora before we go? I kind of want to play Metaflora. Let me pull Metaflora up. Alright, we're gonna close out of this. I love it. Alright, Metaflora. I need to remove the crop from this window so it looks right. Nope. 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 Whatever. Metaflora. Let's do it. Alright, we need a... We need a guess. Cast Iron, would you like to guess a plant to start us off? You're gonna learn more about turgor pressure. Awesome! If you have any questions as you're learning, you need some clarification, feel free to ask anytime. Happy to share my knowledge. Cabbage? Yeah, let's do cabbage. You're the cabbage man. Alright, let's go to our life map. We know that we have cabbage as a guess, and it's not cabbage, but it's still in the Mesangiospermae, our flowering plants. We're gonna start by looking at our plants, and then we're gonna look for our Mesangiospermae, meaning flowers. Now, cabbage exists right about here on the map. Right about here. Just a little guy, right there. There's our brassicales. So, because the most common link is Mesangiospermae, we can walk ourselves backwards and knock all of these different areas out. So, it's not the Malvids. It's not the Rosids. It's not Pentapetalae or the Dicots. But it is Mesangiospermae, so we get to stay out of this fan. We are either going to be a proteale, a magnolid, holy fruit salad, it's fruit salad puncher. Hi buddy! We're going to be a ranunculus, or we're going to be a monocot. So, magnolids, monocots, let's see. We could guess, again, we could always guess like black pepper, or, I don't know, I think avocados are in here, but I could be wrong. this is Buttercup family, so we could guess poppies. In here, we could guess any kind of asparagale. We could guess a grass. We could guess, there's a lot of things. Banana, orchids. All right, let's do black pepper. Black pepper. No. But we are still in the Mesangiospermae. Black pepper exists in here, so if we take our steps back, it's not a magnolid, but it is Mesangiospermae. So now we know that it's not cabbage, so it's not up here. It's not black pepper, so it's not in here. It could still be a proteale or a ranunculus, but unlikely. Daylily? Yeah, we can try daylily. That would be in here. Oh, it doesn't like daylily. We could just do lily. Okay, we're getting closer. We know that it exists in this group called the Petrosavidae, which is this group. So it is a monocot, but it's not out of the alissimalates. Alismatales? Which ones are these? Alismatids? Huh. Interesting. Mostly grow in freshwater habitats. Unusual, but okay. Okay, so we are in this area, but we're not a lily, so we're not going to be in the liliales. But we might be in the commelinids. We might be in the asparagales. We could be in other things, but for the most part, we're going to stick to these two. So options include iris, asparagus, aloe, orchids, or we could guess any kind of grass. We could guess these are not as common, but in here we have the ginger, prayer plant, banana. Let's try asparagus. Yeah, okay. Orchid or asparagus, either way, that'll get us whether or not we are in the asparagales. So let's guess asparagus. No. So we're not asparagus, which means we are not in the asparagales. We are most likely in the commelinids. But it is possible we're in one of these two, although I just don't know what the examples are. Screw pine. Panama hat family. We're really likely not in here. So maybe we should stick to the commelinids. So we could guess pineapple, we could guess any kind of grass, we could guess, again, ginger, or banana, or prayer plant. I actually don't know if prayer plants are an option. Canna lily. What else is in here? Costaceae? I don't know exactly what's in there. But yeah, I'm gonna give you guys the options of guessing either ginger or banana. So whoever guesses first, I'll go with that. Alright, I'm guessing ginger. I don't know if I just have like a delay to the stream or what, but yeah. Okay, so we're definitely in the commelinids, but we are not in the zingiberales. So I say we guess something out of here. So maybe either grass or pineapple. I want to guess pineapple. We are in the poales, but we're not a bromeliad. So we're most likely either a rush, a sedge, or a grass. And just because we love poales, our grasses, let's guess oat. Okay, we're in Poidiae, so major cereals. So we could go wheat, barley, oat, rye. Let's No, flax is not a grass. Flax exists way over in the rosids. They're a malphigiale out of a genus called, was it Linium? Linidae? I don't know. I'd have to look back at it. Alright, see you later, Cast Iron. Thank you so much for joining. I'm glad you enjoyed. The VOD will be available after stream, and I'll have it posted on YouTube as well. I'm gonna guess wheat. Ooh, no, buckwheat's a whole different group. Okay, Triticaceae. Wheat, barley, rye. Let's try barley. Okay, how about rye? Okay, there we go. It's rye. We did it! Wow. Woohoo! I'm always proud of us, because we always just keep working our way down and we don't end up in some off branch. Did it. Okay. Yeah. That concludes the stream. That concludes the stream. Let's move back to our chat scene. Hi. Thank you guys so much for joining me. You demand 8 more hours of nap. No, I gotta keep it to just the horticulture content today. I had a really good time. I enjoyed the talk. I like this talk. We should figure out who I'm gonna raid. I'm gonna look at the category and see if anyone is doing science and tech. The fuck is this? We could watch a weather radar. Aw, raccoon eating grapes. Cute. There's Cyber Study Hall number 3, live for cybersecurity professionals, all levels. Yeah, I just wanted to see if there was anyone that like... Oh, what? Ant cam? What the fuck is ant cam? Whoa! You guys want to go see ants? Ant cam! Then everyone, after you're done watching ants, go watch Penbu. Yeah. You found a chinchilla for adoption? Oh, that's so cute. But yeah, we're gonna go raid an ant cam. There's so many ants. So many ants. Alright, I guess we need a raid message, even though it's not like there's a person sitting there. It's mildly lame, but this is what we're doing. Ants in my pants. That's your raid message. Ah, shit, it's a followers only one. It's a followers only chat, so you guys might not be able to chat at all. That's okay. It's still ants. We're still gonna go look at ants. Ants in my pants. Oh, they're leafcutter ants. Cool. Okay. We're gonna raid. So, yeah. Bye!